Welcome to the Steady On Stronger Together podcast. I am your host, Angie Bauman. Friends, buckle your seatbelts because my conversation with Lakeshia Poole is probably going to get into your stuff just a bit. Lakeshia's most recent project is a challenge to all of us to be what she calls responsible citizens in a digital world. Whether it's in the emails we send or the posts we create for our social media followings, our words are impactful. The New Testament book of James says we all fail in many areas, but especially with our words. Yet if we're able to bridle the words we say, we are powerful enough to control ourselves in every way. And that means our character is mature and fully developed. That's in James 3:2. I think you'll find both conviction and encouragement today to remember how powerful our words can be. Let's listen in. Hello, Steady On community, and welcome to this Stronger Together conversation. I'm Angie Bauman, and my guest today, I'm so excited about this topic. My guest today is author and speaker and PR consultant, Lakeshia Poole. Lakeshia, welcome to the Steady On community. Thank you for doing this with me today.
Awesome. It's so to be here with you and your crew.
Yay. Well, Lakeshia, how many books have you written, dear? Because I don't even know for sure.
4 books.
Okay.
Yes. That's accurate.
Okay. All right. And this latest is out March 4, has a March 4 release date. Do I have that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. And it's called Don't Post That, a guided journal for saving jobs, peace, edges, and lives. And we'll kind of get to that title here in just a second. But I love talking about this because I think that what we're posting and what we're saying is so important. And as we have learned from watching other situations, sometimes what we post never goes away, right? And it can really cause some significant rifts, but also open some doors depending on how we handle ourselves online. But before we dive into that, Lakeshia, tell us just a little bit, if you will, about yourself, your ministry, your family, whatever you want to share with us as we get to know you just a bit.
I was born and raised in a very, very small town in Georgia. I attended the University of Georgia. Go Dogs. I have to say that. That's an obligation. And I began my career as a public relations and communications consultant, helping corporations, executives, government officials figure out the right words to use in promoting businesses and their brands. And I eventually moved back to my small hometown to support my mother and my nephew because family is a huge deal to me. And the thing about being in small towns, the community support is very tangible. It's like an extended family because everybody knows your name.
Yes.
Everybody knows who you are and what you do. And, as a writer, I've been very blessed to not only be inspired by, living in this small town and my family and this community, but I feel like there are people who care about me, my stories, and just all of my crazy ideas, including this new journal.
Tell me just what is the heart of the book? Why write something called Don't Post That?
Well, the heart of the journal really stems from even my experiences in journaling. I engage in what I've called in the past angry journaling, where if I'm facing very frustrating situations or I'm dealing with some type of issue that I just need to get all that mess out of my head, out of my heart. A lot of times I'm having these why me God conversations. So I'm asking God, like, what is going on in my life? This does not look like what I thought it would look like. And what I found was that when I was frank and honest with God, with my Savior, I gained so much clarity and so much purpose. I sit down and I'm writing all of my complaints. But within the next 5 to 10 minutes, by the time I put that pen down, I know what the answer is to my problem, or I feel this sense of peace. And so I really wanted other people to feel that same power, that same peace, that same purpose. And I felt like journaling was one avenue that they could use to experience that. Because I also think that with social media, we are pouring our hearts out and we're putting ourselves out there, and it's because we need an outlet and we're holding stuff in. And so I wanted to give folks a safe place to pour it all out, but to also figure it out instead of, going straight to social media and putting that stuff out there and not knowing the true impact of it.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Pour it out, but in a place that's less, what is the word that I'm looking for? Risky, but not, but like dangerous or has consequence. When we pour it out before the Lord, the only consequences are that he'll receive it, right? When we pour it out on social media, it's a whole different thing. Yeah.
It's a monster. You don't know where it goes. Like the tentacles could spread in all kinds, because people, here's the other thing, whether you're reading a book or reading something on social media, one thing I've learned as an author and as a reader, there's this exchange that happens. And so the people who are reading it, they're bringing their own problems, their judgments, and their own thoughts. And so something that is completely innocent to you is triggering to someone else.
Yes.
And so because we don't know, I think that's another reason why we have to be extra careful.
Yes. Yes. Well, what are some of the things that you see on Facebook or other social media platforms that, as you say, just makes your blood pressure rise? What kinds of things are you talking about there?
So where do you want me to start, Angie? Where shall I begin?
This is a safe space right now. You can tell us what you think, dear. We're learning from you.
Oh my Lord. So I've been on social media, Facebook specifically, since my college days. And we're looking at 15 years of just this online world. And I've seen how Facebook and other platforms, they've evolved and they've become more popular. And what makes my blood pressure rise is really a mix of big things like misinformation, misleading headlines, lies, people misrepresenting my Christian faith and the teachings of Jesus Christ. That is a huge one for me. But I'm also super annoyed by little things like when people comment and it is totally irrelevant to the original post. To me, that's almost like butting into a conversation if we're in person. That's how I perceive that, right? Mm-hmm. Or if I post, or if I see someone sharing a post about something they love and somebody comments why they hate it, and I'm sitting there like, why? Like, what does that contribute to the conversation that you have to express why you don't like something? And so these things really bother me because, to be honest, I am a bit of a control freak. I prefer for things to be neat and orderly and follow a logical process. But that is not how our world works, and that is definitely not how the internet works. We tend to either underestimate or overestimate the power of social media. We either call it silly and meaningless, or it's our everything. It's our news source. It's our network. It's the place where, again, we pour out all of our feelings and thoughts. And in reality, it's a mix of both. And figuring out how to wade through the mess, how to be digitally literate, to be able to decipher between fact and fiction, and honestly choosing to be a responsible citizen of this digital world in what we share and what we say, all of that is critical to navigating what really has become the primary way many people commune and communicate. And so when people don't realize that, I definitely go from 120 over 80 to 150 over 110 or something crazy. Because I just see, it's almost like you see this impact, this train wreck happening, and you feel like there's nothing you can do to stop it. And again, as a Christian, I never want my brothers and my sisters to become entangled and to serve as a stumbling block for them. And so I'm always cognizant of when people are doing things that I feel like stirs the trouble a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciate what you say about kind of this like two extremes, right? Because I think there's such value. And I appreciate what you say, like the responsible citizen of this world. I think there's this online world. There's such value in our online communities. I have friends through different online communities that I'm in that I don't know if I'll ever meet, but I have deep, meaningful conversations with them. We meet like this through Zoom or whatever, and they mean the world to me. And I've met them because of online community, for similar interests online. But then other times I get online and I'm just like, it's just trash and lies. And right. and
Right.
both are a part of this, as you say, this online world that we are all a part of. And since COVID, I would say it's increased in so many of us, right? Because so much work has shifted online for people and conversations have shifted online. And so we do need to have greater responsibility in how we conduct ourselves online, especially, as you say, as a witness for the love and grace of Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the subtitle of your book kind of shoots straight, I think. You say that this is a guided journal for saving, and I think these are big words, saving jobs and peace and edges and lives. Talk to us just a little bit about why you feel someone's post or online presence, even, in a greater sense, can affect something as big as jobs, family, peace, lives.
Well, you're right. It is very direct, and in some ways it's reflective of my Southern culture, for all the niceties and the hospitality that Southerners are known for. We're also known for shooting straight from the hip and getting to the
hospitality
heart of the
with a touch of sass. Is that fair? Yeah.
2 tablespoons of sass for sure. And so we've all heard stories about people, who post things that have caused them to lose their jobs. And many companies have policies that give them the power to fire you if you behave in a way that does not align with their mission and their values. And I think there is a misunderstanding of, the First Amendment rights. That doesn't protect you from the consequences of things that the private sector or your job can do based on your words. That's a totally different protection, right?
You have the freedom to say it, but they have the freedom to decide how they respond to what you've said. True?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And in certain states, like my state in Georgia, they don't have to have a valid reason to fire you necessarily. It's an at-will state. And so there are a lot of these little intricacies that I don't think people think about as far as what their rights are. And, as I mentioned, I am a communications consultant, and in my work, I've used the tools and the technology that allows these corporations to see everything that people post about them. And so I've seen that other side where we're monitoring to see, the negative posts that people put out there. And I'm always shocked by how many people publicly complain about their jobs online. I was consulting with a hospital on their social media strategy. And in my audit, I noticed employees checking in while they're at the hospital on Facebook and proceeding to complain about practices and specific people at their job while they're supposed to be working. I mean, there's literally a timestamp to showcase that instead of taking care of patients, you're posting on social media. And so I don't personally think that there's anything wrong with disagreeing, with the debate, with challenging things. Like we talked about earlier, social media has its good side as well. It's a great place to advocate for causes and issues and to raise awareness. But I just don't think that airing out all of our grievances on social media is always the most productive and effective route. In so many ways, we've turned it into our personal diary, but it's all for public consumption. And so we don't see the long-term effects. And beyond that, it's very harmful to our peace when you're scrolling through all of this negativity and all these bad headlines, and you don't even realize the impact that it's having on your mentality and your mental health. You're getting into these arguments and debates with strangers. And I've heard about people who, they've actually separated from real friends based on actions that they've taken on social media, whether it's unfollowing somebody or perhaps disagreeing on certain political viewpoints. So it causes a lot of stress. So that's where the edges come in. All the stress of dealing with all of these virtual shenanigans, as I like to call it. It's just very dangerous. And last but not least, we've seen where people, their reputations are completely ruined to the point that they may have to turn names. We've seen cases of people who have inflicted violence on somebody else because of something they've shared online. And so I just believe that we have to get really clear in understanding how this virtual socializing affects us. As human beings, we are wired for socialization and storytelling and all of these things are a part of social media and it fits with what we need. But if we don't know how to operate, I think that's when it becomes really problematic.
Let me ask your opinion on this, because I'm thinking back to what you said about the employees at the medical center that you were, involved in that audit or whatever. I think what's underneath that is I don't feel heard somewhere. And so this is a place that I can be heard, or someone will affirm my opinion, which will, I don't know, help in that some way. What do you think about that? I think it's misguided, but is that where that comes from? I don't know. That's just my opinion. That's popping into my head right now is this desire to be heard and affirmed. So I'll just post this out here. I'll shoot this out here and somebody will say, that's right. You should be mad about that, or whatever the situation is.
No, I think that's very accurate. And again, that's one reason why I feel like the journaling is important, because you're given an opportunity to express yourself. And so a lot of us are holding in a lot of thoughts, feelings, opinions, and social media just makes it so easy.
It's trickling out in our social media and our online life, right? Yeah. Holding that in. Yeah. That's a good way to say that. What you just said, that we're holding it in, but it's coming out when we have this freedom to real quick. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And social media is designed for us to get those quick doses of, happy hormones when somebody likes our post. Like there's a lot of research out there about how, when you get a love on social media or a like on social media, it's that same feeling that you get when you're falling in love. So
no way, really?
There's just a lot of science behind. Yeah, sure. There's a lot of science behind it that they're aware of. One of the things, again, as a marketer, we understand that marketing is art and science. And so we know that there's certain images that may trigger certain words that would trigger certain feelings and connection. And so those platforms, they're designed in a way to keep you on there. And that's why they're so addictive. And so again, back to your point about wanting to feel heard, a lot of us, especially during this season of isolation, we don't feel heard. We feel disconnected. And so it's our only place where we can connect with others, and it gets addictive. You fall into this routine of just like, oh, I can just share whatever and I'll get a like. And then when you do that, then you start to perform a little bit where you're like, oh, if I do more of this, then I'll get more love. And so you're just looking for love in all the wrong places. That's what's happening.
So with the journaling then, because I think, as Jesus followers, who we most can receive that I hear you, I see you from is Jesus, right? That's the absolute place where that will bring that peace that the social media stuff is maybe playing with a little bit. So talk to us about the journaling. How do you feel? I'm assuming journaling is probably a part of your life regularly. How do you feel journaling, and guided journaling in particular, can push us to be more transparent, more vulnerable, maybe more honest about what we're feeling, and really be heard deeper than what just a like will do for us?
Right. It's along the lines of what I was talking about earlier about just that feeling, that need to perform or to be perfect. There is a lot of pressure that comes with social media because that eyes are on you. And so it can provide this false sense of transparency. So, we see people who are oversharers online, but in actuality, they're performing. Like they're just putting out things that they feel like will generate a like, a love, or position them in a positive light. And so a lot of times when I see these outbursts or people doing something really out of character, I realize that it's an outward expression of something that's been happening on the inside. And so when I say don't post that, what I'm really saying is, hold up, let's think about this first. Let's like, what's really going on? How are you really feeling? What do you really think? The funny thing is, a lot of times when people see me promoting don't post that, they're like, oh, that's great for kids and teens. Yes, that's accurate. But I think that it is a wonderful resource for older folks like me in your 30s, your 40s, 50s, 60s, because we're sharing stuff that is disturbing as well. And so this isn't some new quote unquote millennial issue. It crosses all generations. And, research has really shown that expressive writing helps us to process trauma, and it has this lasting positive effect. A lot of us, adults, we're still dealing with wounds from childhood. And so for me, and from what I've researched and from what I've seen in other folks' lives, journaling is a way to process those emotions, those thoughts, and some of those challenges that they've gone through in their life. And so it's free and it's easy to do. All you need is a pen and paper. And because it's private, you have that freedom and that space where you can lay it all out on the line without feeling that judgment. I've been journaling for a few years, and it's just been a blessing to me, where once I write it down, I'm thinking through my options. And I feel like this is something that we've seen happen even in the Bible. Like, they write letters, a lot of the content, it's just written. You write it down to memorialize those thoughts and those moments. I like to go back through my journals and to see the prayers that I prayed. And I realized, oh God, like, he gave me what I asked for. Like, and I would never have known to, I never would have realized that I prayed for it had I not written it down. There's just something powerful about being able to, journal those initial thoughts. Then you can better communicate what you need and what you want and what you think, whether it's in a social media post or with a friend, your spouse, a colleague, or a family member. Because I've written down what I wanted to say and I've thought about it, not only can I say it in a way that they receive it, but I get what I want. Because that's what's happening. People are throwing this stuff up on social media, and it's miscommunication. And so they're not getting what they need, and they're not getting what they want. Back to that example about the client I had, the hospital client I had, we were seeking input from employees because we wanted to strengthen that internal communication. And so, I wish that they understood that, because it just led to more issues instead of us solving the problem.
Sure. Yeah. As you were talking, what I was thinking of, the journal, especially if you want to be putting things on social media that people respond to, because some of us do want to do that. We want to stir hearts, or we want to encourage people, or whatever. And that journal can be a place to do the initial work. And then after some time passes, maybe you can go back to that when it's not quite so raw, or not quite so, it's not filled with anxiety or fear or whatever, wherever those initial words are coming from, and say, you know what, now that I look back on this, as you were saying, this is something I really felt like the Lord was teaching me through it. And that's a better place, or better, from a better place to put something on social media, perhaps, where people could actually see not the bleeding out of whatever you were going through, but actually some like growth or learning from it instead.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's what I tend to do, because on the other side, I know that especially us writers, a lot of times we feel that prompting. You should post that, and I'm always like, no, God,
maybe you shouldn't,
that.
Right? Yeah.
But
I'm feeling this. I'll go live right now. Maybe no.
Right. And so when I always write it down first, like, even if it's just one little update, a Bible verse or whatever, I'll, tap out a note, or I write it down, and then I'll feel more confident about it. Again, that writing process, it provides a sense of peace. And for me, in my relationship with God, I follow the peace, and I know that, okay, I'm going in the right direction when I have that sense of peace. If I feel confusion, or like I'm being vindictive, or I'm saying something in a passive aggressive way, that's the other thing. A lot of times we may post something that's right, but it's not righteous. So we just have to, get in tune with ourselves. And that journaling space provides that opportunity. The other thing I will say about Don't Post That, with it being a guided journal, it's asking you these questions that you should know the answer to, but you just don't think about it. Like, you don't think about yourself as much as you should. And I feel like that self-awareness is so important. And so you get this mix of simple, silly, and serious writing prompts that allow you to be vulnerable and discover your voice at the same time.
I love that. I love what you said in in that section too, that we can post something that's right, but it's not righteous. And one of the things that someone said to me years ago that I think of often is sometimes you have to make a choice between, do I want to be loving or do I want to be right? And those things don't, sometimes we have to make that choice, right? That we actually, even if we are right, are our words leading with love? So what's the call to action today? I think what you have said has been so great in so many ways. What would you say, if anything is like stirring the heart, the Holy Spirit maybe is stirring in someone's heart saying, maybe you should listen to this just a little bit. What steps can we take to be just more intentional? Obviously pausing. I think that would be a very big one that I'm taking away from our conversation today. But what else can we do just to be more intentional about our posts, our comments, our responses to others?
I'll say this. Don't post that. It is humorous. And I mean, I approach it with jokes and really try. I'm not making light of it, but I am approaching it in a way that showcases my sense of humor. But overall, it is rooted in hope and my firm belief that our words change the world. I feel like a lot of the chaos that we see happening in our world is the result of wrong and negative thinking, unbelief, reckless speaking. Once that is out there, it's not like you can pull it back. And particularly as a Christian, we have to be vigilant about managing our mouth and staying on mission. We got to stay on that mission. We got to love God. We got to love people. We got to love ourselves. That's something I have to remind myself of every day. We have to be peacemakers. We have to speak in truth and in love. We have to exercise wisdom and discernment. And so all of these different, things that, we have to choose to pursue. Social media is just one platform where we're learning how to operate and to become a little bit more like Jesus. I remember one time confessing to my Bible study group that I hated Facebook because it made me more judgmental. Like, these people are making me judge them, but no, I needed to learn how to be less judgmental.
I love that.
And so
it's their fault I'm judging.
Right.
I'm
like,
it.
Stop telling me these things about yourself. And so it was a convicting moment for me.
You're making it too hard for me to be like Jesus.
Right. It's your fault. But from a biblical standpoint, and we see so many verses in scriptures about the power of our words, our tongue having life and death. And I think that this applies to not only our verbal speaking, but also what we write. And so it really does trouble my heart when I witness so many Christians, and including myself in this bunch, where we communicate in ways that do not align with the character of Jesus Christ. And so I see how easy it is to get sucked in. And what happens is you get into the mess online, and that fear and that doubt and judgment, it just starts to seep into our hearts. And I felt it seeping into mine, particularly in 2020, where we had health crisis, political crisis, just all these different crises that required, or people felt like required, their opinions. Everybody felt like they had to speak up and say these different things. And so, I just wanted us to be more cognizant of what we say. It matters. And so I would say overall, my advice is to approach whatever you post, whatever you say, as if it matters, as if it could change your life or somebody else's. And I feel like when you use that as your foundation, that, this is world changing, even if it's something silly, you'll filter out the mess and really try to focus in on what you should be sharing.
I love that. Approach whatever you're posting as if it matters, because it does matter. It's a reflection of us, of ourselves, and of who we follow, who we serve. Oh, yeah. I think that I love this project. I love talking to you about this. Before I let you go, though, I always like to end with this question. It's different, but the same. What are you, Lakeshia, anything right now that you are studying, listening to, watching, reading, something that's on your nightstand, whatever, anything like that that you have in your life right now that's keeping you connected with God. I love to be able to share resources.
Oh, absolutely. I have my daily devotional time, and it looks different some days, but for the most part, I like to include meditating. So I like the Encounter app where you get a guided meditation on a specific scripture, and it is so relaxing, and it's a good way to just begin my day. I also am reading Marshawn Evans Daniels. She has a devotional journal called 100 Days of Believing Bigger. And so that's a journal that I'm working through right now. And I also have my go-to classic, which is Daily Strength for Daily Needs. It is an old school daily devotional.
I love that devotional. Love it.
Man,
yes.
I've been reading Daily Strength for Daily Needs for over 10 years now. And it is so amazing how, even though the same words are on each page, I get a fresh word, a fresh perspective. I feel like ever since I announced the fact that I'm doing those Don't Post That, I've been seeing all of these devotions and scriptures on, words. Like I came across one the other day where it was like a poem about using pettish words. I didn't even know people said petty back then. I was like, oh wow, this is nothing new right here. So but yeah, those are my go-to daily devotionals and resources that I like to tap into.
I love that. Thank you for sharing those and it's not new what we're talking about, right? But it needs to be newly addressed, I think, always. And so I really appreciate your voice around it. I appreciate your humor. But I think it's what we post in our online presence is, whether we like it or not, is a reflection of who we are and who we serve. And I do think, even though it is sometimes humorous, it does need to be taken seriously. And I just really appreciate your encouragement. I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. And the guided journal book is called Don't Post That, a guided journal for saving jobs, peace, edges, and lives. And you can find Lakeshia at Lakeshia Poole, Poole.com. I'll put that in the show notes. Anywhere else you'd like to send people, Lakeshia, to follow your stuff?
Well, you can also find me on Instagram at Lakeshia Poole and on Facebook at Lakeshia Poole. The Don't Post That journal, all of the information around that is at don'tpostthatjournal.com. I make it really easy.
Good. That's very smart. Lakeshia, thank you so much for spending this time with us today.
Awesome. It was such a pleasure. I had a lot of fun.
Until next time, peace. With every word we speak, we have a choice. Will we use our words to build up or tear down? I have a friend who worked as a hairdresser for years, and she spent hours every day talking to people, and she would pray, Lord, help me be a day maker and not a day breaker. Amen, friend. May what you've heard today remind you that you have the power to use your gift of words to bless and uplift the people you encounter. Thank you so much for listening. I pray that wherever your day takes you, you are walking in the confident knowledge that you are a beloved, cherished child of God. Peace.